Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Beef Medium Podcast. I'm your host, Zach, aka Snack with Zach, and I'm joined by a man who owns more cats than I do, my co-host and my brother, Matt.
You make it seem like I'm crazy, but I'm only like one cat shy of crazy.
I have one more cat than I have, so he's 30% ahead. Bill Oakley is a sleeper pick of a person because he's been involved in a lot of stuff that almost all of American society knows about, but you just don't know how. He was a writer for The Simpsons during the golden years. I mean, since then, he's worked on a ton of different projects, including Disenchantment. He's worked on Portlandia. He worked on Futurama. And in 2018, he started reviewing fast food and has very much leaned into the food thing, still writing. He's got his own show on Audible, but I mean, what a story that guy has. Bill Oakley's going on the road. He's hosting a lot of dinners in maybe your city through the summer and the fall. He runs one of the biggest independent food societies, the Steamed Ham Society Food Discovery Club on Discord, which is where a lot of people come from across the US and the world to talk about food generally. And so this is Bill's latest integration with that. It's really exciting to hear about. So without further ado, please welcome the very wonderful Bill Oakley. Taking it back to 2018, right? Your first video ever was the McDonald's quarter pounder switching from frozen to fresh beef, and it went viral, didn't it?
It went viral in terms of like I had like 100, maybe like 86 followers on Instagram, and it got seen by maybe 200 people. So
well, that's still good.
But the point was that it got seen by both Mike Harris, who was the head chef at McDonald's at the time, and the McDonald's account, both who were like, "Yay, we love the video." McDonald's said, "Hey, congratulations on your new career as a food blogger," and I was like, "Hey, maybe that's a pretty good idea." And so, not that it's my career, it's still my hobby. I'm still a comedy writer as for money. This business isn't really that lucrative. So that's still my actual job.
No, it's a difficult.
But I do this for fun.
You know, it's funny you say that too, because 9 times out of 10, the guests on the podcast are part-time, or at least like, you know, they're creating content full-time, but everybody still has day jobs. Like I still have a day job. Matt runs an editing house. And then plenty of the other people that have come on are also people who are like, I want to do food full-time, but I can't.
I saw that photo of you with all the snack royalty at the Sweets and Snacks show, and you lined up with Snackolator and Grocery Obsessed and all those people. And I was like, I wonder if every single one of those people has an actual day job, or are any of them, even Snackolator, does he make enough from this thing to actually live on it?
He still has, for as far as I know, he still has a day job, and I think everybody else in the photo has a day job. But Sweets and Snacks also, if you haven't been,
I have been.
Oh, you have? Okay. You weren't at this year's,
were you? This one. There was this. It used to be in Chicago, right across the street from the restaurant show, and they would do it like back to back. And then they moved. They fractured into a different place last year.
How do you feel about Vegas?
I love Vegas. I love to go to Vegas all the time. I'm excited because of course, I'm going to go when it's in Vegas.
Yeah, it's next
Indianapolis
year.
Yeah. did not. The siren song of Indianapolis did not draw me this year. Also, because it was 2 days before the restaurant show again.
When I was at Sweets and Snacks, when I went to leave Indy, my flight got canceled back to Mass. Oh, I had to fly to New York, and I was trying to figure out like all the different ways I could get back to New York because I had an event the next day, and I was like, I could drive to Chicago. It's 3 hours if I really want to, but they're like, no flights flying anywhere. So I was looking at all the cities in the area. It was like Cincinnati, Chicago, Nashville was like 3 hours, and I was like, I kind of need to be at this event. But Chicago's not that far. But if you're on that sort of like, I don't know, industry expo circuit, do you really want to drive 3 hours to go to between the two? But Vegas will be great next year. I'm
excited about that. I went to the Fancy Food Show. Now I've discovered also there's other shows that I like even more. I went to the Fancy Food Show, which is in Las Vegas, or they're moving it again to San Diego, but it's also New York in the summer. That was great. Yep. And I also heard this, what is the Expo West? Have you been to that one?
So the Fancy Food Show I've heard of, I was going to go last year, but I had a scheduling conflict. Expo West, I have heard the name, but that's as far as it goes. So what is it?
I'm curious as to what it is, because it says it's all about, like, when it said it was all about natural foods, I was like, oh, well, that's going to be like a health food convention. But that's apparently not what it is. Apparently, it's basically like everything you would find in a grocery store. Okay. I have to do more research, but that's exactly what I would love to see. The restaurant show is amazing because it is such an enormous show, and like it's every company from Heinz to Coke and whatever puts on like a huge show. They put on a showbiz style thing, so I love going to that. But I actually find that like this fancy food show or whatever, there's more stuff that I personally am interested in as a person who doesn't own a restaurant.
You are similar to me in the sense that you appreciate a lot of the novelty of food, whether it be fast food snacks. I know you do a lot of local content now when it comes to Portland, but the origins are very similar. And what I had found out in the past was that you grew up like Matt and I, where you didn't really have like a ton of fast food around. And so you kind of latched onto it later on in life, which is basically how I ended up starting Snack with Zach anyway, was not really because I didn't have fast food, because at that point I was like 25, but I always gravitated towards like the snacky type foods anyway. The older I got, like teenage years, college years as well. Matt's kind of in a different boat. Matt, you're more of like a gardener type.
Yeah, I mean, Zach and I rebelled from our parents in different ways, and his outlet, his prime years were more with snack foods and whatnot, and mine was more with like cooking on my own, rogue in the kitchen.
Wow.
But as we got older, you know, we've been able to. Our mom, I wouldn't call our mom a crunchy granola mom. I would call our mom a crunchy granola mom, like
a natural food show attendee.
But like natural foods in the way that like you would think of natural foods, of like organic. Like I remember growing up, she was taking us to like these organic grocery stores before they were like trendy. Like they were these teeny tiny little stores at like end of like strip malls that had like bottles of tinctures and all these different supplements and things like that. And there were like, you know, bona fide hippies walking around. I didn't grow up getting to drink like dairy milk or like have cereal, but I would be able to have like goat's milk and like the organic like knockoff brands, and that was like good enough for me. So like fast food at my point in life was not a part of the picture.
And fast food culture's also just changed over time too. I mean, so like 2000, obviously there were the majors right before that, but like 2000, I feel like even to now, it's been wild. And it's been kind of stagnant at this point, but I mean, the amount of like chains and options we have, I mean, even the Pacific Northwest, you guys must have some crazy shit that we don't have out here.
Well, we only have Burgerville. Burgerville's the only one we have that you don't have. Oregon, where I live, takes great pride in its in its agriculture.
Okay.
And so we have a lot of, there's so much great produce and meat and farming and so forth around here. So people tend to frown upon fast food. And also because of the various politics involved in fast food as well, and the labor issues and so forth. So we actually have fewer fast food chains than I believe almost any other place, a region in the country. Like we go to Florida or Texas, they got 150 different chains you never heard of, you know, from I think you went to Cookout recently, right?
I did go to Cookout recently.
Cookout and all these other crazy ones. But here we have all just the majors and Burgerville.
How is Burgerville as an experience?
It's pretty good. Like the best thing about Burgerville is the specials, and they have local. They're also very proud of their local affiliation. So they have local things like Walla Walla onion rings, which are amazing. From time to time, these are all seasonal specials. They have fried asparagus, and it's all from like, you know, this area. So you'd be shocked at how good the fried asparagus is.
You know, well, I'm not doubting it. Yeah, because the Habit has, I think it's like fried. It's maybe fried edamame. Which is really good. So
that does sound good.
Yeah, fried asparagus. I definitely don't turn my nose up at. What is a Wawa? What's the Walla
Walla onion?
Walla Walla.
Oh yeah, Walla Walla is a city in Washington State.
Okay,
and it's also out in the country, you know, and they have a lot of agriculture there, and their onions are quite famous. And the onion rings are big. They're real big, thick, very well breaded onion rings that are delicious. There's like 4 or 5 in an order. So those are all seasonal specials. Burgerville has a lot of good stuff. In my opinion, the burgers at Burgerville, ironically, are the least interesting and delicious items. But everything else, the shakes are fantastic. Their other sandwiches are fantastic, and their seasonal specials are. So I like Burgerville quite a bit. And otherwise, we have a pretty sparse. I mean, you got to drive a long way to get to Arby's or to get to Del Taco. We have 2 Del Tacos in the whole state, you know, so we don't have that kind of stuff, which is fine. You know, people, it's not really culturally appropriate for this area, given this is possibly by many accounts the best food city in the country. And I certainly would agree, given the wide range of stuff that's available here. That is amazing.
Well, for those listening, we should touch on something really quick, because earlier we were talking about like most people have like day jobs and stuff, and you stated that you were a comedy writer, which I feel like is a bit of an understatement for some of the titles that you have under your belt.
Most notably, with my partner, Josh Weinstein, I was a writer for The Simpsons for 7 seasons back in the day, what some people call the golden era. We also ran the show and were the head writers of it for 2 seasons, seasons 7 and 8. I, during that time, also wrote a thing that went on to become known as Steamed Hams, which became an extremely famous segment, a short that we did, and went on to become the Internet Meme of the Year for 2018. And there are thousands and thousands of remixes of it on YouTube and so forth. And that's why a number of my culinary endeavors have the phrase steamed hams in them or steam in them, which we can get into further.
The Steamed Ham Society.
Correct, which I saw that you joined. Thank you very much.
I did.
I hope you enjoyed the Discord. I'll get into this later, but the Discord is the number one source of food information on the internet for me. The Discord is incredibly valuable. I'll come back to this later when I talk about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then subsequent to that, Josh and I worked on a number of other shows, including Futurama and a number of our own shows, which were not nearly as successful. Mission Hill being the most beloved of those shows, even though we only made 13 episodes of it.
But it's got a cult following, Mission Hill, too.
Yes,
That's the thing. Was it 2 or 3 episodes, then it got pulled, and then you guys went to Adult Swim, and now it's like...
Yes. It had 2 or 3 episodes in its original run on broadcast television, and then Adult Swim picked it up for nothing because it's the same company that made Warner Brothers for nothing, and they ran the same episodes, 13 episodes, over and over and over for years in like 2005 to 2008. So it did build up a cult following. And just recently, it was the 25th anniversary of that show, and Josh and I went like on a tour. We did like 30 different cities, showing it in movie theaters. You can't see it anywhere anymore. So we showed it in movie theaters, and it seems like every city has about 80 to 100 Mission Hill fans. So it was a fun trip, and that's part of what's got me started when I talk about my dinners. The tour that we did for Mission Hill was one of the inspirations for this, because I got to go to places I had never been, like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and try these regional foods. That has now become my obsession this year. So then after that, Josh and I went our separate ways, and we worked on a number of different other shows separately. I worked on Portlandia. I was the head writer of Close Enough before Warner Brothers went all crazy and canceled 70 animated shows.
Oh, we talked about that a couple years ago. Both of us were like, are you kidding?
But they're in business to make money, not to indulge me. So basically for the past 6 years, my main writing job has been working for Audible. And it's been absolute. I hope I'm not jinxing it, but it has been paradise working for Audible. You know, audible.com.
Yeah,
which is mainly known for its audiobooks, where you can go to hear Harry Potter. You can hear Harry Potter and hear it in your car when you're driving around or when you're jogging, right? They also do original productions. They do a few original productions every year, and that are things that are especially written for Audible. And I pitched them the show several years ago called Space 1969, which is something I wanted to do for years and years and years, but was too niche for every format, including comic books. and because
really?
because it is a retro sci-fi history show.
But that sounds fantastic.
Well, thank you. I hope you listen to it.
Yeah, that's 100% up my alley. So to hear that it's too niche for something like a comic book has me basically floored. Like,
here's the thing. But so I wrote this thing, and basically the very short version of the story is it takes place in an alternate 1969, where John F. Kennedy did not die from his wounds, but instead is still president and is just beginning his 3rd term. And he also decided, rather than waste our time fighting in Vietnam, we should colonize space. So, and it's pretty realistic in its treatment of this. In 1969, we have an orbiting space station, and we're going to open a colony on the moon. But it's all kind of based on real stuff that actually kind of could have happened. And the star of the thing is Natasha Lyonne. Natasha Lyonne plays a nurse who works on this space station who's drawn into this large conspiracy. So it's got a ton of pop culture stuff and from that era. And it's my favorite thing I ever wrote. And well, surprise, surprise, it was not too niche for Audible. It actually became a surprise bestseller on Audible, much to my delight. And they ordered a sequel, which is now Space 1972, which took me 3 years to write, 668 pages. And I wrote it all by myself. And now we're recording it right now, and hopefully it will be. Natasha Lyonne is back to star again, and hopefully it will be out this fall or winter. That's my actual job.
So is it basically at this point like an anthology where you did 1969 It's 72. Is it follow the same characters?
It's the
3
same.
years later?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
it is.
cool. Okay.
It's the 10 episodes. It's not all one thing. It's basically kind of like a radio show. And so there are 10 episodes of each season. And now we pick up with the characters 3 years later in 1972 in this election year. Kennedy's still president running for his fourth term, and things happen. It also has Richard Nixon as a major character in it, and so is Natasha. So it's fun. It's very fun to write, and no one else in the universe would pay me to write this thing except them. So I'm delighted, and I direct it, and they let me direct it and edit it and stuff too. So it's really fun.
That's so cool. It's also so fascinating to hear about your career because of how many different types of media you've kind of been able to like dabble in, because you've been able to do like written TV or serialized TV. You're doing Audible, but you're also very like active on like social media as well. Is there any format you haven't been able to like indulge yourself with yet that you would like to?
Well, movies. Josh and I actually did write 2 movies that got sold back a while ago. I don't know, 20, 15 years ago. But movies is a bummer for writers. I'm sure people know this. In movies, writers are peon. They're interchangeable garbage. And so you sell your script and then you're gone. Basically, they replace you. There's no reason for them to keep you on. If you sell your script, you're gone. You're getting lucky. You're lucky if you get invited to the premiere of the movie that you wrote. I'm not kidding about that. So in TV, it's very different because the writer is in charge. Generally, the writer who made it up is in charge of the whole thing. So that's far more satisfying. But the TV industry is a disaster right now. It's like being in the newspaper business in 2005. And I'm so glad I don't live in Los Angeles and have to compete for people with these 700 people crying for each job that pays minimum, So I guess it's because, much like newspapers, now everybody could make a newspaper in 2005 when the internet was around. Now everybody can make a TV show, and everybody does. And there's a gazillion TV shows, if you count TikTok and whatever, on every day. So there's no reason for anybody to pay to either watch a TV show or make one, except in rare cases like Squid Game or whatever, Game of Thrones, Succession. But those are very few and far between.
Well, I also get that from the standpoint of doing what I do on social media, doing food news, and realizing that in a lot of ways I compete with a lot of major publications. And when it comes to the erosion of news purely because of what exists on social media now, I'm always sitting there in the back of my mind being like, am I contributing to the downfall of traditional news? So
they're hanging on by a thread, if anything. Don't worry about that. I think most of the people who write for, unfortunately, knowing a fair number of them, the people who are writing those traditional news are not in good shape either. And
it's tough.
Those sites, the printed word is dead. And most of those sites are now, I've pared it down to 1 or 2 people who work there who have to work their asses off, and and then it's also like AI is writing half the stupid articles too.
You being a career writer, Matt and I talk about this a lot. Matt coming from a background of writing, me coming from, even music, and I've done a lot of creative stuff. You being a career writer, how do you feel about what's going on with AI? Have you worried? You sit there and you think like it can never really do what we do in terms of just like original thought? What's your take on it?
It's pretty close already to doing a lot of stuff. Like, this is the thing. Like, you can see Hollywood quality stuff on stupid old Twitter every day now that people are generating with AI. And it's not, but like, the problem is across the board, there's a million times too much content for any person to absorb. So it's a matter of getting their attention. As you know, it's in social media, it's the same thing.
Totally.
And getting the attention is the hard part. Creating the stuff is not so much the hard part anymore. And, AI can't write something that's all that great, but it can write it can write a lot of crud. It could probably write, not to impinge upon the writers who write soap operas, it could probably write a soap opera quality show and produce it by itself. But it couldn't, I don't think it could write a really good movie, and it couldn't write a really good TV show, but that might not be that far away. It's a time, as you probably know, for people to stake their claim in the attention economy. I think I heard somebody say that phrase.
Oh, yeah. Once I locked into that niche, man, I completely did it by accident, where I was just on TikTok reviewing, again, the new novel stuff. And I went and did the roundup just by I just kind of had the idea. And I was like, what if I post a list? Would people want to see it? First of its kind, nothing ever really existed. And once I went viral with it, I was like, oh, I got something. I was like, I'm going all in on this. It's green screen food news.
Yeah, you do great with this.
95% of the time. Thank you, man. It's a lot of work, as you know. It takes.
I know. Every time I see this, I can't believe how much work it must be taking.
Oh God! Even if you saw my log sheet, I've got maybe 100 releases constantly at all times. And I'm combing through to be like, all right, what are the best ones to pick here for coverage? And then the inbox is constantly full. But it's a very good problem to have, better than having a shortage of stuff. But yeah, once I found that, I was like, people are giving me attention for this one thing, and I'm gonna run with it. And now there's the podcast, because again, the podcast is a great way to meet people and hear their stories, because there are a lot of people who come along that like are trying to figure out how to get into the areas that we're in, right? Especially with something like screenwriting, right? To get your name out there is super challenging. Same thing with just becoming a creator on social media that's got attention.
This is what just the short version of what I tell people, because people come to me every couple of weeks and are like, how do I break into TV? And I'm like, don't put all your eggs in that basket, okay? Yes, you can still do it the traditional way, but you should spend at least half your time doing it in a non-traditional way. And what I mean by that, like I told these guys, there's some guys I told they're animating their own thing and having success with that. Or guys who I said, who are decided to do off-Broadway plays, and they're doing those, and it's like, the headline for everyone is, don't rely on a big company to give you money or care about you at all in any way. And so therefore it's, your best bet is to go directly to the theater goer, the viewer, the whatever. If you can get to them, then you can cut out the middleman that you shouldn't rely on anyway. And that's what you're doing. So congratulations. I mean, that's like, you don't have to, you don't have to kowtow to some, whatever executive at Hulu to get your stuff on the air. You make up your own mind and it's on the air, and more people see it than most of the shows on Hulu.
There are a million ways to get to where you want to be. And I think the Audible thing is a great example of that too, because as you move your career, you've been all over the place, done some really cool things. And now you're writing what you want to. The project you're the proudest of on a format that I think a lot of people wouldn't immediately consider.
Yeah, for sure. And it didn't, but the part of the magic of it, I never thought of it as a radio show either, but it's much cheaper as a radio show. To do this as an animated show or a TV show would cost a fortune, and it would only attract a small number of viewers because it's a triple niche. But in audio, it doesn't cost anything at all to have the theater of the mind generate these spaceships and stuff,
Which is nice. Though I just want to say the one thing I'm thinking of, the fact that you have Richard Nixon as one of the main characters, I keep on thinking of the head in a jar from Futurama. Oh, yeah. It just that's the thing on my brain.
I hear
in the
you.
Matt Groening style. The work that you've done has obviously taken you in a lot of different places, right? You mentioned going to new cities like Cincinnati, etc. What has surprised you? Where has surprised you in your travels? What are the things that have caught you by surprise generally, food-wise?
Well, honestly, it's a lot of special regional foods, which actually leads very neatly into me plugging my events. When we went to these cities, most of the time I would post on Instagram, I'm going to Pittsburgh. What should I eat? Right. And then I would make a list of what people said, and I would go to the ones that got the most votes. And I also would go to places. I'd say, what can I get in this town that I can't get anywhere else? This is where this whole Culinary Curiosity Dinner thing came from. For instance, I went to Pittsburgh and I got to try Ohio Valley style pizza. And Ohio Valley style pizza is one of a number of weird regional pizzas in America. And this particular pizza, the cheese and toppings are put on cold. So you get it's a pizza that has a crust baked with the tomato sauce, and then you put and then you get the, I know, it's crazy. And you get the cheese and the toppings are put on cold, with the exception of sausage, which has to be cooked, obviously. But people love it, and it's actually really good. I wouldn't really call it, it's not really what you'd call pizza. It's more like a giant Lunchable type thing, but it was really good. And so I did this. I had a lot of different things as I went around. I had Detroit Conies. I had Cincinnati style chili. I had all these things. And then I was like, how come you can't buy these things anywhere? Like most towns, you can probably get a Chicago style hot dog that's kind of inauthentic. You can probably get a Detroit style pizza or whatever, but you can't get any of these other things. And there's hundreds and hundreds of regional foods in America that are really good and kind of interesting. So that's what I'm doing with these dinners that I'm hosting across the country. And I start literally in about 6 days in Austin. And then I'm going to Austin, Omaha, Cincinnati, Atlanta, San Diego, Boston, and Greensboro, North Carolina. And
when are you in Boston?
I'm in Boston August 18th. I hope you can make it.
Oh, I'm putting it on my calendar. Unless there's some travel thing, I'm 100% there. Count me in.
Absolutely.
But so I love how you're doing this. Okay.
So the dinners are I collaborate with a restaurant that is interested, a restaurant that's ambitious, right? And say we have a menu. I have hundreds of suggestions, and it's basically a 7-course meal. Some of the courses are smaller courses, like an amuse-bouche or whatever, But it's a secret what it is, and it's all stuff like this. I will say, like in Portland, we did like Indiana sauerkraut balls, Rhode Island style clam chowder, St. Louis gooey butter cake, for example. So it's all stuff that people and everybody had a great time. And I give a funny talk. It's a moderately amusing talk about the unusual world of American food with some Simpsons anecdotes thrown in for the crowd. Nice. So I'm doing these, and furthermore, I will continue doing them during the fall at restaurants. So if anyone listening to this, by the way, wants to collaborate, has a restaurant, wants to collaborate with us, please get in touch with me through my website, billoakley.com. And if you want to attend these events, the tickets, there's a massive link to all the tickets on billoakley.com. So I would appreciate everybody coming to every event and telling everybody that they know in these cities to attend the event, because selling the tickets is hard, but it takes a lot of work because of the stupid algorithm. So the word of mouth helps.
That's such a cool idea, the road show.
It's fun. Fascinating.
It is fun. And everyone, it's an interesting introduction for me to the world of restaurants, which are all flaky. Like restaurants, I assume it's just because it's hard business. So like every restaurant is the flakiest person I've ever met. and it's like, but it's, it takes a lot of work to do something like this, especially because they're making up 7 new menu items. So, the ones that have committed to do it with me, they're heroes. And I want to thank them.
Yeah. Thank you to the restaurants for place. I was in the industry for like 10 years. Yeah. But you never worked in the restaurant industry. Is that true? You just have a natural curiosity towards the food. Yes. And that's part of, I think, what people have told me repeatedly that they like about my content and my events is I approach these from the layman's perspective, from the customer's perspective. And at the restaurant show, for example, everybody there is in the restaurant industry to some extent, except for me, who is like, I want to tell people about what they should be looking for at these restaurants. I want to tell people about the new Heinz dispenser that will give you the customized condiment of your dreams and that kind of thing. And I want to tell the public about things that the public will be able to enjoy. And that's very much the same thing with these dinners is I let the chefs do what they want. And many times the chefs come up with all sorts of interesting regional foods that I didn't even know about. And then we, but they become part of the grammar of the show.
You're reminding me a bit of, are you familiar with George Moats?
Sure. This is the third time somebody has mentioned George Moats to me in the past couple weeks. I have never met George Moats, but I have his book, I watch his videos, and I've been to his restaurant.
He was what introduced me to just like the insane regionality that comes with just burgers alone. Yeah. And so that kind of spark is reigniting as you talk about, what was it, Cincinnati style chili?
Yeah.
And like
Skyline.
You always forget how like broad things can get in America when it comes to food. And so I love that you're taking this approach of like going to different cities and blending those all into one experience. Is there any like regional dish that's like stood out to you as like, I guess like shockingly good, or just like you couldn't, you tried it and you're just like, I'm blown away by this? Or was that just like, was that the cold pizza on top of the baked crust?
Which is a stoner. That must be a stoner mistake. I have to imagine.
It's been around for years. Apparently, it was invented in like Youngstown, Ohio, or something like that. And I guess part of it was because in those days, the pizza ovens the pizza would get burned by the time that the cheese melted or whatever. So it was one of those things that was made, like it was made out of, like many regional dishes were kind of made as mistakes to begin with, like the St. Louis
cheese. Somebody just left milk out, and you got cheese somehow.
Yes,
so
I was thinking about that.
Happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say.
Yes, that's one of the elements of my food enterprises. The other ones are the Steamed Ham Society. And there are my Instagram, which we've already covered. That Bill Oakley on all the social medias, except for TikTok, where I'm the Bill Oakley because I forgot the password to my that Bill Oakley account. Could never recover it. I also have a couple other things in the hopper, like Steamed Ham's brand hamburgers, which I now have the trademark for because I don't know why Disney Fox either dropped the ball or didn't care that I was trademarking a piece of their intellectual property. And I can't honestly believe that at those Simpsons lands that they have at Universal Studios, they don't sell steamed hams, but they can't now because it's mine. So I'm going to manufacture steamed hams.
Dude, that's a power move. I want to be the first
Stick it
person
to
to
'em.
review that. What do I have to do?
I'll let you know. It's going to
I'll
be a long
fly
process.
to the factory, Bill. I will walk there from Massachusetts if I have to do that. I remember seeing that clip years ago. Multiple times, because like when you were on the YouTube early days and you would just like binge watch things repeatedly and you always had like the same rotation of things,
Yeah.
that was one of them. So to learn down the line that obviously it's the Steamed Ham Society now, it's got the group of people that is all about the food, but one meme of the year. Was that surprising to you when that happened too?
Yes, I never heard anything about that. The whole world of internet Simpsons fandom wasn't really around when the show was made back in those days, So we didn't hear about these things at all. We just broadcast them out into the ether, and then you never heard about them again. So when that suddenly started becoming a thing in 2014, it started in Australia actually, and with people calling their grocery store chains asking for steamed hams as a prank, and then the grocery store chain got into it and put up signs that were like, "We don't have steamed hams, but we hope you'll try our ground beef," and stuff like that. So and then it came to America, and it became kind of a thing to remix it. So yes, I was delighted. I have to say, I'd be very jealous if someone else had written that, but fortunately it was me. So I'm like, I got to somehow hook this into my food endeavors.
I just want to go back to the Steamed Ham Society real quick, because you trademarked it. You trademarked the phrase "out from under" because Disney, Fox didn't do anything. And then what are you doing with it now? Are you going to start selling like steamed ham burgers?
Well, it's
that's theoretically, yes.
Yeah.
There's two prongs to this endeavor as well. One is the Steamed Ham Society, which I also trademark. Now that is a club. It is a club that is for people who like to talk about food, and that's pretty much the entirety of the thing. And there's hundreds of people from all over the country and Canada on there all day long talking about food. And it's not necessarily about the James Beard Award winners and so forth. It's about food. It's about all sorts of snack food. It's about fast casual food. It's about cooking. There's a lot of people who cook the barbecue and things like that. There's recipes, people who live overseas who talk about the pizzas in Italy and so forth. So it's the whole spectrum of food. But let's just say that the kind of food that I eat and you guys talk about is very well covered there. And I think it's the best source. I used to read all these various food blogs, but now, well, I watch your stuff, right? But a lot of the time, on the stuff, people tend to review the things on the Steamed Ham Society Discord. So they've gotten the things and they're like, and it's a very frank discussion of what is good and bad about these items.
But that's also
as
important.
There's also channels for Simpsons fans. There's channels for, for just general politics. The politics channel is very active too.
I need to see what the Steamed Ham Food Discovery Club politics.
You got to get in there. Yeah, I'll help you get with this Discord thing. Discord is annoying to set up, but it's not that hard.
But it's one of the things that you talked about too is the frank, honest discussions about these things too. And you had run into that when you were doing more fast food content too, is you were very honest about it. People obviously called you the Gordon Ramsay of fast food.
Yes, that's right. Good. Did you do your homework on this?
You faced a little bit some headwinds with being honest on social media about the food from the brands. Kind of like shunned it a little bit.
Yeah,
didn't they?
It's interesting. They stopped sending me stuff. I used to get a lot of stuff from McDonald's and Arby's and places like that, and I haven't gotten anything from any of them in a couple years now. And I wonder whether it's just it's just standard whatever attrition of their mailing list, or whether it's just like, don't send that to him, he might not like it. Which is fine. I don't really need that stuff anyway, and I always end up giving it away or taking it to Goodwill. So my integrity as a reviewer is important. Now, also, I'd say I don't review everything I'm sent. Sometimes I just post photos of it on my story generally. And I always post photos of things that I'm sent. And I also am careful not to give bad reviews to small makers or people who are struggling or local places at all. I support them by posting photos of their things. And even if I don't like it, I'm just like, you got to check this out. Right. And so, because it's only big companies that I give bad reviews to, and they don't care.
And plus, there's like a mix of positive and negative is always more helpful.
Yeah, it's very honest.
Every day too. Yeah. Matt, I'll deviate back to the burgers.
Yes. So the burgers, to be honest, hasn't been figured out yet. I had to make sure that I got the trademark, which I honestly can't believe, because they had 60 days to object to it. And maybe they just don't care. Like, maybe the lawyers at Disney have better things to do. They have to protect Iron Man and Cinderella and then deal with every stupid Simpsons meme that ever appeared, which is fine because that allowed me to get it. And so I'm either going to license steamed hams to various restaurants to sell a Bill Oakley approved burger at their restaurant, or I'm going to manufacture frozen steamed hams. Both of these in partnership with whatever company, and like, I can maybe I get Pat LaFrida to make a special steamed hams blend from his butcher shop or whatever. So those are things that are down the road once I finish these dinners, because the dinners are very time consuming.
I'm once again just amazed at the scope of like projects that you've kind of been able to tackle.
You really do a lot.
Yeah, because it's like you were just talking about how like when with these dinners you go in as like a layman and you work with like restaurants and whatnot, and, but you acknowledge that you're a layman there. I feel like it takes such confidence to like dive into so many different ventures and so many different things. And I'm kind of wondering, because you're a comedy writer, do you think that writing and I don't know if you have any background in stand-up as well, or if it's strictly just like, scripted writing and whatnot, but like, where did you get the confidence to just throw yourself out there and like tackle all of these projects from?
Well, they're not really that high stakes. That's the thing. I think it's posting stuff on social media. It's more just like I would say that people who enjoyed it and supported it when it started, including McDonald's and Mike Harris, made me feel like continuing to do it. Now, not every project is a success, and some of those are quickly buried, but the confidence has come from doing it. Like at first, I didn't even know how to. If you look at my old videos, they're hilarious because they're so amateurish and so crummy. It took me all day to figure out how to string 3 shots together on my first video, and I didn't even know my phone could make a video. So it's come from experience and practice. And the Mission Hill shows actually helped a lot, because before the Mission Hill shows, I didn't like to be on stage that much, but now I love it. After doing 30 of those shows, I'm a ham now, and I want to talk endlessly. So I'm happy to do these dinner events in the same vein, because I talk for 5 minutes and then we serve the item, and I have a whole bunch of different things to say about different foods and about the Simpsons stories that relate to these foods sometimes. So I've become a ham over the past couple years. Thank you. Oh, and I forgot one other thing. I forgot my other thing that we discussed this already. I believe at the top of this thing was my newsletter. Because of my dismay with the way that algorithms are behaving, especially on Instagram, which I had put so much stock into. As you know, Zach, and I think we've discussed this, the Instagram, in its attempt to become more like TikTok, is showing you a lot less material from people you follow and a lot more from people you don't follow.
Yeah, it's difficult because I've always relied on Instagram as a platform to connect with people. The way I would describe them in recent years was TikTok was good for reaching audiences you didn't have, and Instagram was good for reaching audiences you did have. And they blew that. They ruined it. It's really difficult with the inconsistency of the just because I don't expect everything to be up all the time. I don't expect every video to go viral, but there's an unpredictable
I would like a certain percentage of my followers to see the videos.
Oh yeah,
and they don't, and so that's very annoying. So this is why I started a newsletter, because I actually was just like Googling, like, how can I make sure that more people who follow me see the material, for crying out loud? And it's like, start a newsletter. And everybody's start a newsletter. So I did start a newsletter, and that is at editorama.co. You can go subscribe to that. And it's interesting. It's sort of the same stuff you'd see on my Instagram, but this way you actually get to see it.
There's a lot of truth that if it ain't broke, don't fix it too. Email newsletters have worked for ages. Email's still the most active channel for marketing for people anyway. There's a fun fact. It's email, and then I believe it's social. But I mean, people are checking their emails constantly in the first place. Before you know it, we'll be back to like mailbox paper mailers. That would be a cool way to do it anyway.
Something is going to happen. I can't tell what it is, but I don't think it's going to be more than a year or two with social media, because it's going to be flooded with AI slop. And it already is to some extent. And like, people are just going to give up. I think you just can't, like, what are you going to do when every place is ruined? Every place that you used to enjoy is ruined because it's constantly filled with AI generated crud.
Have you heard of the dead internet theory? Have either of you guys heard that?
No.
Yeah.
Matt, do you know how to explain it in a way that's better than I can explain it?
I'm sure after I explain it, someone is going to give them. It's the idea that like so much of the internet is just going to become like empty space filled with just like digital garbage, from like AI bots regurgitating content to websites that have died out to like videos that don't get viewed anymore. And so it's like this idea of like I believe there being like a vast wasteland out there in like the digital space of like, and with AI just continually like regurgitating stuff and churning stuff out, it just adds to that.
Here's the official Wikipedia definition. The dead internet theory is a conspiracy theory that asserts due to a coordinated intentional effort, the internet now consists mainly of bot activity and automatically generated content manipulated by algorithmic curation to control the population and minimize organic human activity, which sounds very serious. It sounds very
plausible.
Yeah.
It's plausible.
Very horror
I didn't
movie.
realize it was like that orchestrated.
Yeah,
I don't think it's that orchestrated either. I think by the natural function of these bots now and the machines, I don't think it's an intentional thing, but it's the natural product of how all this is kind of going, you know?
Yes, I think that's true. And I think also there is going to be a backlash against that. Backlash has already started amongst, you constantly read about like young people who are like getting dumb phones and crap like that and don't look at social media at all. And that's one of the things that I was thinking about when I started this dinner series. The dinner series is a five senses event. Unlike watching stuff, it's like you're not going to, first of all, nobody else is going to do it. And it's an event, it's a live action, real life event where you get to touch, taste, feel, smell stuff, that is in the real world. So that's part of the, I felt like it's time to do some of that. I've done enough digital stuff. Let's do something in the real world.
I like how you're doing that, bringing it back to an in-person experience versus, you could do, I do live streams all the time where I try like the snacks, which is fun to an extent, but I mean, that can get people involved in things, but to give people the ability to go to a place and try things and not only live vicariously through a screen.
Yeah.
That's a human element that I have been missing with how digital everything has become, which I know obviously sounds very hypocritical given the line of work that I'm in, but
you got to start. Yeah. You have to start your own brand you got to start your own store or something like that.
Everybody's doing food festivals right now.
Yeah.
Like Keith Lee's got one. Somebody else has one.
I'm sure you're familiar with Snack Shot. Snack Shot has one too, and they. It seems like that's on the horizon for you.
I'm trying to do something along those lines eventually that really brings people together. Not to say that it's not still digital, but yeah, in an ideal world, I would love to have like a cool. This isn't that, but the people who have like the snack stores and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it always seems like a good idea. Except you go to the mall and there are some of them. I don't remember what they're called, but it's better that I don't just defame them or shame them on here. But there are a couple like novelty stores I've seen in the mall that sell like current snacks and like LTOs and even like Funko Pops and pop culture things. Yeah, and they're like they've got like a 4 times markup on them. Like they had the they're insane,
and they can often be expired too.
Oh my god, yeah, that's what really. That gets me really, really pissed about it.
There's a sucker born every minute. You got to take advantage of it.
Sometimes I am. The thing is, like, there are products that I want that resellers will end up grabbing, like the pizza Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And I'm like, well, I want to review it. So I just paid somebody $75 for a bag of cereal I'll eat once. But I'm also just a general dumbass. So,
but for you, that's also content. And so at that point, it's kind of
it's an investment.
Even if you are paying a markup on it.
It's tax deductible.
It is tax deductible. But
Zach with Zach Incorporated gets to take that as a business expense.
I can totally write it off, but
Absolutely.
I always feel guilty about feeding into the resellers. But that's a me thing that will have to be explored in therapy.
I did want to ask you, Bill, has your passion for food been like a lifelong thing?
Yeah.
Like,
did you grow up with this?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious about where this kind of stems from. Did you come from a house of foodies, or did you come from where did this all start?
No, I believe, and I've said this before, that it was that I didn't get to go to McDonald's as a kid. And it was because we lived in the country, and McDonald's would advertise on TV. This was back in the whole era of the Grimace and the hamburger. Constantly McDonald's land, and I really wanted to go to McDonald's. And the nearest one was 60 miles away, so I get to go on my birthday. And so I was like, when we moved to the city, even then it was still, there wasn't as many fast fooders. I had to take a bus for 40 minutes to get to the soup at McDonald's, but I did go. I became more interested over time, and I always wanted to be among the first people to try this stuff. I think that's what it was. That it was like, and certainly I remember in the 90s, the era of such things as the Arch Deluxe, where I was like, I'm going to be the first one through the door to get that Arch Deluxe, and I'm going to tell everybody my thoughts on it. So that's been, it's been that kind of thing has been my And my family was not. My dad was very interested in food, but he was more interested in much more high-end Michelin-starred French type food and so forth. So he didn't eat a lot of Oreos, and we never got any delivery pizza, for example.
Yeah. I'd say it was very parallel with us growing up because our parents are not to the same. They obviously enjoy a Michelin star restaurant. They like fine dining, but that's not to say that my dad won't absolutely just house a pack of Oreos in a day. So it's like kind of like the best of both worlds. But we grew up in similar ways, even if they were different eras. Although we were close to, I mean, we had a McDonald's down the street and stuff like that. My dad and I would go on Saturday mornings. Yeah, I hear you. So then you guys weren't like big. You had to cook at that point too, kind of, right? Was it just sort of general meals, or was there a little bit more of like a care about that?
My mom would cook this is a very traditional household. It was like 1950s, for example. My mom would cook dinner every night. We never ever ordered food. And even back then, there wasn't as much delivery food even back then. There was maybe you get delivery pizza or Chinese food, but that was it. And we never got that. So in my entire life growing up, my mom would cook dinner every day. And it would be very traditional things such as meatloaf or liver and onions sometimes, stuff like that. So we had a very normal diet. And, I would only get that kind of stuff when I was out. If I wanted to go to take the bus to Roy Rogers, for example.
I never had Roy Rogers. I always wanted
It was good
to.
back in the day, and it's still pretty good. I think they have them on the New Jersey Turnpike.
It does really. I'm in Jersey all the time. I should check that out. I have a list. The cookout thing was the same thing. I have a first time tries list where I go to all the places I haven't been to before. Burgerville's now going on that as well. Did you? This is
how was cookout really?
I was going to ask you if you've ever been to cookout. Have you been to cookout?
No, I hope to go when I do my show in North Carolina.
It was legitimately fantastic.
Wow.
It's some of the best fast food that I have had in years. And I can, spoiler alert, because I don't know when the Bojangles first time try is going to release. Nothing against Bojangles, but I wasn't really floored by the meal. I also went later in the day and everybody told me to go earlier, but with my shoot schedule that day, I had to go later. And there were some things that were really good for Bojangles, and I totally give Bojangles a try again. But when you compare that with something like Cookout that is so local, and if you're listening and you don't know what Cookout is, it is a very regional fast food place that is in South Carolina, North Carolina, and I think one or two more states, but they've largely got 300 locations clustered around the Carolinas. Dude, I
can't wait to go. I hope they have one in Greensboro.
I can't wait to get your thoughts on it. Yeah, because everybody was super hyped. Usually the first time try videos do okay, not great. It's more of a for the followers type thing. It's not meant to go viral. But the cookout video did really well because it's got that super cult following. I got a burger, a cheerwine float, which is, have you had cheerwine before? Yeah, it's like a cherry. You see, Matt's giving me a look. It's apparently
I'm just
a southern
unfamiliar
thing.
with it.
Yeah, but this wild thing is it's a southern thing that we just never had cheerwine, and I found out what cheerwine was last week, despite the fact that we grew up in Georgia.
I had at the restaurant show. I had a cheerwine-based barbecue sauce just last week. That was delicious. Yeah,
cheerwine's a cherry soda, by the way, Matt. So it's
that's why we didn't have it. No soda in this house.
Yeah, but that sounds fantastic too. I need to try that. But the cheerwine float was great. Everybody recommended that. I do what you do when you ask people where to eat. When I go to these places, I'm like, okay, I'm going to Bojangles. I'm going to cook out before. What should I get? And then I go with what's the most popular stuff generally. So the cookout move is the tray. I got a cheeseburger. I got that float. I got a milkshake, which is solid. They're very thick, but I mean, that's a good problem to have versus it being thin and watery.
Yeah. Did you get a pulled pork sandwich?
I didn't, but it was because I was I already had 6 things on the plate. I didn't want to waste the food because it's the other thing I hate is just throwing stuff out.
Yeah.
But no joke, Cookout was really good. It was straight up they were trying to create something that was like what you'd have at a cookout. That's just 100% the concept. And that burger tasted legit like somebody had fired up the grill outside and then just tossed a burger and given it to me. Cause that's all, you go to the 4th of July party or something. And I eat 3 or 4 of those burgers. It's very homemade type.
That sounds great.
It's good. So I can't wait to get your thoughts on Cookout because I was worried it was going to be overhyped, and it was one of the few places that was incredibly worth it. And it's very cheap. Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. With prices these days too, I think everything was $15, but that was with 6 or 7 items. It's a steal because things have gotten pricey.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
$10.99 for a freaking Whopper here.
Yeah,
this is why I don't order fast food anymore. It's so expensive now.
Especially in LA. I bet the prices in LA have got to be astronomical.
Ordering like for 2 people from Panda Express is like a $40, $50 ordeal if you're ordering delivery. So it's just like it's craziness.
There's the curve's going to be fasting in a couple of years, and I think we're already seeing that now, where I mean, yeah, fast food has priced itself out in a lot of ways where people are. And my philosophy about this too is people are always, because I obviously talk about like big companies with the fast food and the snacks that are very recognizable, but people are like, they see what I do and they're like, oh, you should support small businesses. I'm like, you do, you can go to a fast food place once out of the 21 meals you have out of the week. I just talk about it because it's what I care about and that's what people care about with my audience. But yeah, fast food's going to price itself out to the point where like, yeah, if you're going to spend $18 on a chicken sandwich, why not just go to the bistro down the street and have one of those like nice homemade ones?
Or you could make 12 of them yourself for that price.
You can 100%.
It's a nuisance to have to cook for yourself, especially when it's late and you don't want to go to all that trouble. But it's still, even with the prices of groceries being crazy, it's still it's like 10% of the cost of having professionally made food.
Do you guys cook a lot these days at your home now?
I cook somewhat. It's more like there's a combination of things where, well, first of all, I order Home Chef. Home Chef has been the only popular meal delivery service in this house because I have to cook for kids and stuff sometimes too. So
how many kids do you have?
I have 3, but they're all in college now. Or
okay,
older,
I was wondering if they graduated.
But now they're home because it's summer, and so they're like, what's dinner? And so I do that. But I cook for fun. When I cook, I cook out. I do recipes that I want to cook that I see online. So I do that maybe about once a week too. And they're generally things in the vein of, the kind of stuff I like hamburgers and things. But I sometimes cook like I made boiled peanuts from that Southern recipe for the Feed Brothers recipe last week. I'm making pulled pork barbecue sometime in the next week. And I find these recipes are things that I want to cook that I do. So I do about once a week.
Have you pulled any gems from the Secret Ham Society? Anybody had a recipe that you've been like, holy shit?
I can't remember what they were now, but yes, I've printed a few out, and they're good. Man, those people really know. Some of those people really take their cooking seriously, and there's always in the home cooking channel some amazing thing that someone's come up with.
Bill, you've got a lot of really cool stuff going on right now anyway. So final thoughts before we wrap up here. Again, tell us about the roadshow one more time, everything you have going on so folks know what's going on and where to find you.
For everything, go to BillOakley.com, Oakley. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm that Bill Oakley on all the services. But if you want tickets to the events, if you want to know when the events are coming, go to my website and you can click on that link to that, or you can sign up for the newsletter. My newsletter, which also has a link from the main page of my website, comes out and you'll get updates about the dinners, of course. But the dinners begin June 2nd in Austin, and they go to a number of other cities throughout the summer and maybe the fall.
Yeah, you guys will be able to find everything. I am going to do my darndest to make sure I'm there in August, barring any travel stuff, because it would be great to see you anyway. And whenever I finally make it out to the Pacific Northwest, I'll see you then too.
You got to come, and come before it gets too far into the fall. Come before October 15th.
Like the nice season.
Portland was renowned for its crummy weather. However, I think that global warming has improved the weather somewhat. And so now it's actually the spring was pretty mild and the summer is awesome. I'm sure you've seen this in Portlandia. That's Portland in the summer. And it's amazing. There's festivals, there's a naked bike ride. There's all sorts of fun, crazy stuff going on. And the food's amazing. We have this food cart scene here, which is unbelievable. And it's because it's too expensive for people to start restaurants in Seattle or San Francisco. So they come here and start a food cart. And so we have hundreds of food carts with all this great food and every type of unusual cuisine you can imagine. And this is the best place in the summer. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Bill. We appreciate it. As always, the legend himself, Bill Oakley.
Thank you so much.
Make sure you catch that road show, you guys.